next speaker is Mr. Francois du Toit. And
how does it work?
he is the head of IT at Dangote Cement. He's based out of Lagos, Nigeria. And he has overall accountability for successful IT operations of cement plants, grinding stations, and terminals across 12 countries in Africa. And his presentation is titled IoT and Individual Leadership. Please give him a round of applause.
I think I should have, first of all, rolled down my sleeves, because I've got a traditional fitness tracker that works on a normal battery. And the previous speaker said that's no more the way to go. So, sorry, I still have one of those. First of all, thank you to ABI and IT News Africa for this opportunity. Good morning, everybody. I'm not here to teach you about the IoT. I believe you have now had enough of that yesterday, and you know what that is. There's no more need to go into how do we connect your devices, etc., etc. There are enough specialists here that can help you with that. What I am going to try and achieve is to leave with you some food for thought about how do we make or adopt the IoT. So I'm trying to bring two very diverse topics together. I'm trying to bring IoT and leadership in the organization together. Therefore, my topic of my presentation being IoT and individual leadership. That having been said, I don't think any IT presentation will be complete without quoting some stats from McKinsey, Gartner. I heard the name of Forrester also being mentioned, so please indulge me that little pleasure as we go along. Abi did give you a quick introduction of who I am. Why I am interested in the leadership and how do we change our leadership to implement IoT. For about a good 7 years, I've spent working on IT in South Africa, working with Pan-Africa. Mostly the first 7 years, Sub-Sahara Africa. Currently, I'm based in Lagos. I'm working Sub-Sahara, Central Africa, Northern Africa, and the whole Africa in general. So that poses certain specific challenges to us when it comes to leadership, and that's what I'm going to want to address with you today and just leave something with you to think about a bit. Some of the keywords in my presentation: IoT, you know what that is. Benefits of IoT, that's been mentioned numerous times now. I'm sure you know what the benefits are. I want to talk a bit about the implication of IoT within the spaces of effectiveness and efficiency. Effectiveness, what do we do? Efficiency, how do we do it? The piece of the pie, obviously the piece of the IoT pie, that will become a bit more evident a bit later. And then the issue of leadership within the Africa ecosystem, the dilemma that we face, and what we can try and do about that to rescue that dilemma. Today, I'm not talking about the virtues and benefits of IoT that you've heard for one day at least, and some this morning again. I am talking about leadership change required to embrace the IoT and all its benefits. When I say leadership change, I mean for all of us, probably 95% of this forum probably like C-level CEOs, CIOs, CTOs. But this actually goes further in the organization. We as an IT community cannot easily force a change into a business or change a business model. So this leadership change needs to happen across all our, at least C-level executives in the various companies that we work for. Here, my little indulgence, please. McKinsey forecasts that the IoT has a total potential impact by the year 2025 of approximately 4 to, let's say, 10 trillion globally. Wow. There's a lot of opportunity there. We need to get onto this bandwagon very quickly to get a piece of that pie. McKinsey further suggests that the internet penetration in Africa by 2025 will have reached in excess of 50%. So that opens up a whole new market for us where we can do business. Again, it's not just a matter of doing that and that happens. We have to lead that adoption of these new markets and the new techniques that we are going to deploy to get the piece of the proverbial pie. Having given you those stats, it can no longer be disputed that the IoT, is it a good thing? Is it going to happen? Does it have possible benefits for us or not? It's very clear that there are some benefits to be reaped from that. We need to be part of that group of companies that actually utilize that. We may even utilize that through the previous speaker's technology. IoT traditionally, and as with any new technological development, you know, when you get in management consultants, they say, yes, you can do this better, you can do that better. Let's change this process, let's change that process. But what often gets forgotten is the new things we can do, not only how we do it differently, but what we can do differently. That often gets left behind. So that is a slight change in our mindsets and the paradigm that we use to define our business models. Cisco estimates it was sometime during 2008 and 2009 when connected devices started to exceed the number of individuals in the world, and that is kind of what they see as when the IoT started. 2008, 2009, we are now in 2017. Wow, that wagon is already probably starting to move off in the distance, and we have to run, catch up, and jump on the wagon. But to get our organizations to do that, we have to lead for that change. And that's primarily what I'm going to be talking about. Benefits of IoT recognized sufficiently. How do we lead organizations successfully to get some of the pie? We need a new style of leadership that can not only promote technological change, but can promote a change in what business we do and how we do business. We've seen some new companies coming up now, making use of the IoT technology, and they are using that for their business. But most of us work in existing businesses. So how do we get our existing businesses to make use of the IoT to make more money, to put it very bluntly? There's a change ahead, for sure. We all have to change our individual leadership styles. Our traditional leadership styles will no longer suffice. However, in Africa, we have a leadership dilemma. Not that we don't have enough leaders, that's not the problem. The dilemma is that most of the leadership theories, and there are tens, if not hundreds of those, and the subsequent styles that were distilled from those theories were developed in the Western world, not with an Africa focus. Now, this is a particular point of interest for me. I'm busy doing some further studies, and this is specifically the area I'm focusing on the relevance of traditional leadership styles and theories and how applicable that is to Africa. And what I'm seeing currently is that there is a bit of work to be done there. Leadership is about influencing our followers. How do we influence our followers? It's what motivates them. What motivates people are largely determined by culture. So what does that say to us? We all know that culture in Africa, and when I'm talking Africa, I hope it's clear I'm not talking South Africa, I'm talking Pan-Africa. Culture, Pan-Africa, is vastly different than the rest of the Western world and South Africa in specific. That is something that we need to take notice of, and we need to decide what are we going to do with that so that we can get an efficient and effective leadership style so that we can drive the adoption of IoT within our various organizations. Aha. So this is the moment. What are we going to do? The solution. Now, sorry, some of these slides are very, you know, the expression death by PowerPoint, but please bear with me because this is a fairly academic topic. It follows then that leadership style should be based on culture, but when I say that to you, yeah, some of you may or may not be aware of it. Take note, culture is one of the determining factors of leadership style or the correct leadership style. But it's one factor that's 90% common across all leadership theories and styles. We have to actually and seriously develop our own leadership theories and subsequent styles. We can no longer depend on Western developed theories and styles and expect to be successful in our cultural and technological ecosystem. IoT will transform traditional business models. Yes, what are traditional business models? Most probably that statement was written again for the Western world. Traditional business models in Africa are different. So we need to lead for that change. We need to lead how to change the business models so that we can be efficient in the way that we apply the Internet of Africa. It is, like I said, it's beyond debate by now whether we should go IoT. I don't think that debate is alive anymore. Sorry. We just have to get on that bandwagon. The question is, how do we get our organizations to get on that bandwagon? The IoT leader of tomorrow. Let me just see if I haven't. Yeah. The solution. Based on culture, we've gone through this, lead the change. The IoT leader of tomorrow, sorry, another death by PowerPoint, but I was trying to get a number of critically important messages across here. Traditionally, talented leaders have not received much support in Africa when it comes to leadership style. If you do some reading around leadership styles, you will see that it's actually not one single leadership style that is effective in any situation or effective in all situations. You have to have an arsenal of leadership styles, and you have to know what combination of styles you should apply to make your intervention successful. You can't just rely on one single style. This new leadership style requires a paradigm shift in the leadership thinking of our business leaders, not only the CIOs. I reckon, from my perspective, we require visionary transformational leaders. Now, both of those terms are well recognized in the leadership academics, those two terminology. What we cannot rely on is traditional command and control. I cannot, in my organization where I work, I happen to work for Dangote Cement, like Abhi said. We have presence in about 13 countries across Africa. I cannot just one good morning wake up and say to my IT team and say to my CFOs and my CEOs, wow, guys, this is fantastic. Read McKinsey, read Forrester, read Gardner. The scope and the potential in IoT is amazing. Let's do it. It doesn't work like that, especially in Africa. You have to sell this concept the correct way to have it accepted, and then people investigate it, and eventually they will deploy the technology. We need shrewd business leaders, people that are good at business, but who are culturally savvy. They have to take that into consideration. Goldman in 2000 writes that a leader can use a variety of styles, and I've commented on this before, and I mentioned a number of styles there. What we need to do in Africa, we need to develop our own styles, and that variety of styles in any given situation or scenario, given certain cultures, given certain technological developments, we need to put together the most applicable combination to have a successful intervention. That's the only way we're going to be able to do it. You know, I've been to a couple of these IoT conferences, and we talk a lot about the technicalities of it, connecting intelligent devices, the networks, the special dedicated networks, no longer normal data broadband networks, etc., etc. But for us to understand that does not mean that the business leadership understands that they have to bite into this pie and get a piece of that trillions of dollars that McKinsey says is going to be available to us. The Internet of Things leader of tomorrow. This is my final comment. A transformational leader who can invoke and regulate emotions through showing the necessary empathy rather than just rational processes to motivate individuals. You know, we that grew up in the more Western kind of mindset of the world, if we think through a process and it's rational, it makes sense to us, we struggle to understand why a person from another country, from another culture, up North Africa, why can't he see the same logic in it? Why doesn't it make sense to him? There are a lot of factors to consider to make that make sense to him and to explain it to him in his frame of reference. I think that's the important thing. We have to put ourselves in his position. We can't just run into a company up far north in Africa and say, well, this works fantastic in the States or in the UK or in Europe or in the Far East. It may even work fantastic in South Africa, and therefore, it should work for you. That's a rational approach. African culture does not work like that, especially if we go further north up from Africa, South Africa, sorry. That is not a way to do it. It's not going to be easy, but if we want to be successful in the Internet of Things, we want our businesses to be successful, because we don't just want to be successful from a technical perspective. You know, I've done a number of IT projects in my life where we said afterwards, I would say to my senior management, great project, it was successful, we have implemented. All the devices are connected. And now you know what's going to come? Then the exco says, well, yes, Francois, technically everything works perfectly, but nobody's using it. Nobody has bought this concept from you. So this is my point today, is how do we sell this great concept of IoT to the rest of the world in Africa specifically? And I know there are many companies here today that work pan-Africa, and I hope you will take that into consideration next time you have to have a discussion with executives from across your various SBUs across countries in Africa. Keep this in mind and think about how you approach them, how you sell this to them, so that you can actually effectively and efficiently motivate them to lead this change and lead the people that needs to make the change. You cannot sit here in South Africa and think you're going to lead a change that needs to happen up in Senegal. It doesn't work like that. You need collaborators with you in your SBU in Senegal that is bought into your business case and into your technology, and then rolling out the IoT will be a success. Thank you. That's my message. I hope as I said in the beginning, I'm leaving you with some food for thought. It's not a technical lesson that I was giving you. I was just putting something out there that you should consider and think about next time that you have to engage across Africa. Thank you.
Thank you, Francois, for that insightful presentation.